We have a very interesting panel for you today. A little bit of a different format than we usually have. We got this idea from the dating game, so hopefully that reminds you of something. Anyway, we're going to get into it real quick here. I just want to do one or two quick announcements about next month. Next month is our program on the new Wildfire Prevention Authority and proposed county parcel tax. So if you haven't been following this, a new joint powers authority is being formed with all of the local governmental entities and fire authorities to create a more unified procedure and authority for countering wildfires, helping to prevent wildfires, responding to wildfires. And of course, nothing happens without money, and so they are proposing a new tax to pay for that. So we're going to be hearing about that next month with speakers Pat Randolph, who is from the Marin Civil Grand Jury, Christine Neal from the Marin County Fire Department, and Quinn Gardner from the San Rafael Fire Department. That should be an interesting program. My last announcement before we get started, we have some new cards we've just printed up for your use. First of all, a comment card. That's I guess these are the same size. This one says, "What do you think?" And we would love to get your comments, your reactions, your responses, your ideas, your thoughts about our programs. And so we're going to have these on the table every month, and would love to hear from you. We'll collect them at the end, or you can, I don't know if you can send them in. I don't think so. Yeah, you could send them in if you don't want to do it here. Take it home. And then the other card is to encourage new members to explore us and sign up if they're interested. So that is the second card with the information about you and how you can sign up to become part of the Marin Coalition. All right. With that business taken care of, we're here to talk about the arts in Marin, and we have a unique opportunity to hear from three of the leaders in this area. We have, starting on my left, your right, Todd Brody. Todd Brody joined the Marin Symphony in 2016, and in 3 years has presided over significant expansion of the organization's musical activities, its education and outreach programs, and major branding development and marketing initiatives. His prior executive roles include leadership positions with the San Francisco Opera Parallel and the American Composers Forum. Todd also maintains an active career as a, is it flutist or flautist? Flutist, okay, sorry. Performing in a variety of settings as an orchestra and chamber musician himself, with an emphasis on contemporary music. We'll get into that. Jasson Minadakis, on the far side, is in his 13th season as artistic director of the Marin Theatre, where he has directed numerous productions, including A Streetcar Named Desire, Shakespeare in Love, Waiting for Godot, The Glass Menagerie, Othello, and many others. He was awarded the San Francisco Bay Area Critics Circle Awards for Best Production and Best Acting Ensemble for The Whipping Man. I want to ask you about that. And Best Director for Equivocation. He previously served as Artistic Director of Actors Express Theater Company and Producing Artistic Director of the Cincinnati Shakespeare Festival, where he directed Jesus Hopped the A-Train, Chagrin Falls, and many others, including 19 productions of Shakespeare. Linda Bolt, in the middle, is the director of the Kanbar Center for the Performing Arts at the Osher Marin JCC. She began her career at the JCC as an administrative assistant in 1996, and since then has served as operations director, marketing director, managing director, and for the past 15 years has been the director of the center. So welcome to you all. So let's begin with the 30,000-foot view. And we're just going to kind of go panel by panel here and get your comments, and we'll follow this up later with questions from the audience, but I'll be leading a discussion here for the start. So the 30,000 view, I'd like to ask each of you in turn, where do you see the arts in Marin right now? Do you think things are looking up? Is it getting harder to continue presenting quality programs? And what do you see as the trend? Todd, why don't you start?
Thank you. It's really nice to get a chance to talk to this group. I'm not sure I have the perspective to speak about the arts as a sector necessarily, although I did have the experience recently of being on the steering committee as we developed a strategic plan for the arts for the county, which is a very interesting and wonderful document. I hope you'll all enjoy reading it, and which raises as many questions as it has answers in terms of how to bring the things about that this plan would like to see happen. Speaking for my own organization, we're in a field that is challenging for anyone anywhere. The symphony orchestra is a model that was developed 150 years ago or so in its current form and made more sense then as an economic entity than it does anymore. I think of it as kind of a miracle that the Marin Symphony even exists. At the same time, we've been able to find ways to fund it and to help grow it and to increase its appeal. So I think the others will be able to flesh this out in other areas. And in terms of classical music, I think classical music is holding its own in Marin. We face the challenges of trying to reach new audiences, trying to fill in the gaps in music education that took place when it disappeared from schools largely in the 80s, 90s, whenever that happened. So I don't know, that's a very rambling answer, but I'm happy about what we're able to do at the Symphony, and I see amazing artistic activity happening all over the county.
Great. Linda?
First of all, thank you, Scott, for having us all, and thank you for bringing this to the people of Marin, because obviously we all love the arts, and it's really important for us to get out to anyone we can to ask you to be a part of the arts. I think your question is very relevant, and I think we're very similar to the Marin Symphony, and I'm sure Marin Theatre Company in many ways. I don't know if any of you have been to the Kanbar Center for the Performing Arts, just at the JCC, down the street basically here. We do very eclectic programming. So we have music, we have speakers, we have authors, we have outdoor series with dance and families. So it's very eclectic. And I think in my time being here, I see that this is really a difficult time for the arts in Marin for many, many reasons. One, and I think you're going to find this around the world, is that people are right in front of a screen all day long. And I think they've lost that passion for seeing and experiencing live arts. And that performing arts as well as visual arts. When you see something live, it just really creates a great spark in you. It really builds humanity, I feel. And I think that all of us are offering things and asking people to come and participate, not to just see what's on the stage in front of them and hear it, but to do that and share that with the person next to them. So I think that's very difficult for us to break through that screen and get people to be face-to-face with people and the arts again. And I also think it's really difficult to get the word out. In the old days, you know, if you got an ad in the pink section, woohoo, everybody was going to come and see your event. Well, now paper is not necessarily the way to get through to people. Digital isn't necessarily the way to get through to people. Posters isn't necessarily the way. So we have to cast a very broad net to get out to people and tell them about the good work that we're doing. So that's challenging, and we're working so hard on doing that and then bringing great arts to Marin as well. And I've always said that the one thing that I find very difficult and challenging in Marin is I think our biggest competition is the beautiful outdoors, a back deck, and a good bottle of wine. Because there are so many people that would just rather stay at home because we live in heaven here. But I would really like to see those people come out once in a while and experience the arts and get to know their neighbors and get to know people that they share that passion for the arts for.
Great. Jasson?
Thanks for having us. It's very nice to be here. Thank you all for coming today. I would echo what everyone has said, that it is definitely a challenging time right now. Marin Theatre Company has been very lucky that we've been growing over the past few years and that our ticket sales have actually been increasing. I think that in a lot of ways has to do with the fact that we're doing more new material than we've ever done in the past. And I think right now, people who are interested in the arts seem to, at least in our area, be more interested in new work than they are in things that they've seen before. I think for a while, we went through a period where people really wanted to see what they knew. And then that seems to have changed pretty radically, that people are really looking for new experiences. Now, that being said, I think we are definitely facing a challenge in terms of reaching out about the arts. When you're dealing with arts organizations, you're dealing with organizations that don't have the same sort of marketing bang that you have with random TV, with movies. I think the appeal of staying home now, and then for arts organizations to break through that, and especially when the art world is beginning to reflect a more and more chaotic society, and a more fractured society. So as the arts try to represent more and more people, I think it becomes very difficult to find the right audience for each individual thing that you're doing, especially when you have a real diversity over the course of the work that you do over the course of an entire year. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge that we're facing right now is exactly what you were saying, how to reach the people who want to see the piece that you're doing at any given time. Yeah.
So you remind me to mention this when you talk about everybody's in front of a screen all the time. So we have a screen. We have a website for Marin Coalition. These events are all videotaped, and so you'll be able to watch this again on our website in few days once we get it up. Thank you, Alan. And thank you, Stephen. And also, if you want to send this link to your friends who didn't get to come here today and show them what we're doing and let them hear about the arts on our website, you can do that too. So yes, we're talking about live performances, but there is a way that you can link people in on their computers and at least let them know about what's going on in the live theater. So speaking of live theater, 30-second commercial. So we have flyers here for the Marin Theatre Company and for the Osher Center, Kanbar Center. Those are all on the table as you're leaving, so feel free to take those. And with that lead-in, give me a 30-second commercial, each of you, about what we can look for in your upcoming season. Linda, why don't you start?
Oh, okay, well, let's see. We really, as I said, we do eclectic things, and we're trying to reach out to people in many different ways. So we have a Beatles sing-along where we actually have a live band, and we've invited lots of families. This is the third year. It's very successful. Kids, everybody knows it. We project the lyrics on the wall, and we turn the theater into a pub with beer and wine and snacks. And it's just a great, fun, very relaxed evening. Then, at the end of the month, we have John Lithgow coming in conversation with Michael Krasny, and he has a new humorous book called Dumpty, that's it, Dumpty, and it's about the political things going on in verse. He's done it very much like a Mother Goose rhyme. Anyway, it's a great, funny book, so he'll be there. I'm very excited for that. In December, we have Kitka coming. I don't know if any of you have ever heard Kitka. They're an amazing women's vocal ensemble. They do songs from Eastern European traditions, all different traditions. We have the Bubble Man coming. That's high-end art. Bubbles for the family, and that's a children's program. And we have a comedy show for New Year's Eve. That'll be our 10th annual. That's just a taste of some of the things coming up. As you can see, again, very eclectic. So what we're trying to do is really reach out to lots of different people, and as Jasson was saying, it's really hard because you're going for everybody kind of puts themselves in these little niches, and it's kind of time to break down those walls and create bridges, which is what we're trying to do.
Todd, what's coming to Marin Theatre? I'm sorry, Jasson, what's coming to Marin Theatre? You guys just switched your jobs.
There you go.
You're welcome.
We have 6 new plays this year. 5 of them are new American plays. 1 is a new Canadian play. The one where you just opened last night is called Sovereignty, and it's by Mary Catherine Nagel. She's a citizen of Cherokee Nation, and she's also a very brilliant lawyer who's argued in front of the Supreme Court. She has written a play that takes place in both 1830 and 2020. And in 1830, you actually follow her relatives, her ancestors who were part of the Cherokee Nation leadership that was in negotiations with the United States government over the future of Cherokee Nation and the treaties that ended up leading to the Trail of Tears and the removal of Cherokee Nation from the southeastern United States to west of the Mississippi. And then in 2020, you follow a young lawyer who is working on the Restoration of the Violence Against Women Act that is actually currently in Congress right now. It's been approved by the House. It's being held up by the Senate, and it's one of the pieces of legislation that that is being used sort of as bait right now to try to get things funded that, anyway, come see the play. Tell you all about it in the play. After that, we're doing a new play from Jane Anderson, who is a Marin writer. You may have seen the movie The Wife that she wrote. She lives part-time in Marin, where she grew up, and part-time in Los Angeles. The play is called The Mother of the Maid, and it's about the parents of Joan of Arc. So it's the story of Joan of Arc, but through her mom's eyes. So if you ever had a child who you thought was pretty extraordinary and you didn't understand, this is the sort of epitome of that story, right? And I think everybody can relate to it, but Joan of Arc, it's a very interesting story to see, kind of told through the parents' eyes. The third play we're doing is a piece called Nora. It's about Iraqi refugees who got out before the war started, so they were able to actually get out with their resources. One of them is an architect, a very famous architect, and her husband is a surgeon. So it's a very different refugee story. It's about people who have fled a place and are refugees from that place, but they could also be your neighbors right now. It's a fascinating play that's sort of a riff on Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, which is really a fascinating sort of model to work off of. The fourth show we're doing is a new play called Love, by a young writer named Kate Cortese, and it's sort of looking at the #MeToo movement, only from the point of view of a woman who is brought into the New York Times to they want to get her story on a guy that she considers to be a very important part of her life. And then she ends up finding out as stories are unfolded, that the relationship that he had with her was the first of many, many, many relationships that followed a similar pattern. And where she feels like hers was a very empowering story and a very empowering relationship, the women who came after her have very different stories to tell. And the New York Times is trying to do this expose because the man involved is now working for the mayor of New York. So it's also kind of questioning why certain stories come to light and certain stories don't. The fifth play is the Canadian play that I was telling you about. It's about Botticelli, the painter, and the creation of the Birth of Venus, and what was happening with the Medici and the religious fervor that was happening when Botticelli was actually creating that piece of art. It's a really amazing play. It has a lot of contemporary resonances, but it's sort of what we do best at Marin Theatre Company. It's a new play that is set in a historical time period, but it has a lot of contemporary overtones, and it sort of mirrors a past time and now, much like Sovereignty and Mother of the Maid and Botticelli and the Fire all sort of work in that same vein. And then the last play of the year is by Lynn Nottage, who wrote Sweat that was at ACT last year, and you may have seen Intimate Apparel that she wrote a few years ago. Both of those plays won the Pulitzer Prize. Malima's Tale is about one of the last great African elephants that is killed for its ivory. And you meet the elephant in a monologue in the first scene of the play, and then you follow the elephant as the elephant follows its tusks around the world through the black market, and you really get to see how the global economy has changed everything about the way we live. It's a really fascinating, it's both a conservation story, but it's also sort of a exploration of what's going on globally right now in terms of the way commerce moves through black markets and open markets, and how people can be part of things that are incredibly illegal and not know it. They're just trying to feed their families. It's a very interesting exploration, and the elephant is actually your guide through this journey. So those are the 6 plays we have this year.
Full agenda. Todd, what's coming up to the
That
symphony?
sounds amazing. I'll be definitely going to some of those. Marin Symphony is about to begin its 68th classical season. We have actually started our season already with a pop spectacular with a group called Cirque de la Symphony, doing amazing circus performances in front of the Marin Symphony Orchestra, playing classical music. We're actually expanding our pops programming because that's a way we can reach a larger percentage of the people in Marin. Of course, we have the secret hope that they'll come and hear Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart and some of the newer composers we're doing. The Cirque concert that we did in September maybe is the first time in my career that I can remember being in a room full of, in this case, close to 2,000 people on 2 different occasions, when the 5-year-olds in the room were having the time of their lives and the 90-year-olds were having the time of their lives, and everyone in between. I mean, it was really quite remarkable. So we'll have them back. If you missed it, we'll have them back maybe in a year or two. Our Masterwork season, our classical concerts under Alistair Neil, who's coming into his 19th year with the Marin Symphony, which is kind of a miracle in itself. Conductors usually wear out their welcome long before that, but Alistair has not. He's still loved by the orchestra and by all of us. Begins at the end of October with an amazing concert featuring the superstar violinist Vadim Glusman playing Beethoven, Beethoven's Violin Concerto. This is Beethoven's 250th anniversary year. And we also have every concert this season. This is an interesting topic we started to talk about a little bit before the official panel began, the place of new work, and love that Marin Theatre Company is able and thrives on doing such a large amount of new work. Classical music audiences, especially in Marin, we have found tend to be fairly conservative, and we have to find a place for new work, and we are committed to that. In my own life as a performer, new work is kind of in the center of things. We do have work by a living composer on every Marin Symphony season this year, and I think those are pieces we feel very committed to as well. So our opening concert, British composer Anna Klein starts our season, then Beethoven's Concerto with Vadim Glusman. We're doing Saint-Saëns' amazing organ symphony to close that program. We have a program with Mozart and Brahms in January. We have a lovely program with Prokofiev and Schumann. Also with the California Bay Area-based composer Gabriela Lena Frank in March. Orly Shaham is coming to play Schumann's Piano Concerto, and we close our Masterwork season with spectacular Carmina Burana, orchestral, choral, children's chorus, soloist, spectacular. Also with a considerable work by the Bay Area native Mason Bates on that program. We have our holiday 2 different holiday offerings, our holiday pops with the Marin Symphony Chorus, Children's Chorus in the big hall in the Veterans Memorial Auditorium. And then we do a lovely concert that we call Choral Concerts by Candlelight in the Mission Church in San Rafael, also in December. And we close our season with another Pops concert. This one is the Superheroes soundtrack, and somebody asked me what superhero I was going to be going as this year, because you can come in costume if you'd like, and I said I'd be wearing my executive director costume, which is kind of a superpower, but you can wear something from one of the movies that we'll be playing at that time if you'd like as well.
All right, so Todd, you actually must have been reading my mind because you foreshadowed my next question. I want to talk about repertoire. One of my idols is the classical composer Peter Schickli, also known as P.D.Q. Bach, and he tells a story of when he was commissioned to write a new work for an orchestra, and while they encountered some difficulties during the rehearsals, he offered some insight from the composer's point of view to the orchestra. And in response, one of the orchestra players told him, you know, Mr. Schickli, we really prefer it when our composers are dead. And I have to say, you know, when he told that story, I was thinking to myself, I actually prefer it when my composers are dead because I'm a Brahms fanatic, and as Greg knows. So I have a hard time accessing contemporary music. I will freely admit that. I'm a Luddite, perhaps. But tell me a little bit about how you approach new music, new plays, new works. Do you find it easier to present established classics and established repertoire and that as opposed to modern works that might encounter resistance not only from the audience but even from the performers? Todd, why don't you take that?
Sure. Well, I'm a big Brahms fanatic myself and also a fan of contemporary music. And we do take definite heat from our established audience every time we do something that's off the beaten path. So that's a frustration. Alistair and I both feel it. We feel it's important that the Marin Symphony represent the music of our time as well as the great classics that this institution was designed to present. At the same time, contemporary music is not one thing. It's so many things. Music has branched in so many directions. We try to present contemporary music that we think our audiences will enjoy, and we hope that they'll meet us halfway and give it a chance. It's interesting because when you hear a new work, the performers have had a chance to get to know it, maybe only over their rehearsal time, 4 or 5 rehearsals, whatever that is. The audience hears it once, and so it can be tough, especially if that work is in a challenging or less known language. One of the things that I like to say to people when they say, I don't understand this contemporary music, and if you imagine 2 people that are walking down the street speaking a language that you don't speak, say they're speaking Greek and you don't speak Greek, you hear the exact same sounds that they're hearing, but you don't hear the meaning. You only hear the sounds. And then if you get to know Greek, those sounds begin to have their meaning. So it can be similar when you're hearing a new musical language. Thankfully, it doesn't take as long as learning Greek. You can usually find your way into that much more quickly. And some of the music we play is attractive on first hearing. We try to choose pieces that our audience will enjoy. It's also an interesting path that we have to walk because we rely on donations for support. And some of the people that are our most loyal and important supporters, maybe those are the people that are the most resistant to more adventurous programming. So there are a lot of considerations that go into that.
Well, I will say it's all Greek to me, but I guess you knew that was coming. Jasson, you do Shakespeare, you do playwrights from 2020. What are the challenges?
Well, we have pretty much stopped doing playwrights that aren't alive. The dead ones get plenty of productions in other places, so we let that happen. Essentially, what we've been told is that most of the people who come to Marin Theatre Company have a very deep background in theater going, and so they've seen plays at Berkeley Rep, ACT, OSF for years and years and years. You know, Marin Theatre Company is 52, 53, 54. I'm getting confused between my age and Marin Theatre Company. So Marin Theatre Company is 53 years old, and Berkeley Rep is 1 year younger than we are. ACT and Magic are the same age that we are. So these organizations have been around. OSF has been around even longer, and most Marin audiences that are regular theater-going audiences have seen all the Tennessee Williams, they've seen the Harold Pinter, they've seen Shakespeare over and over and over again. And we've basically been told that it's been seen enough and time to move on to other things. We have even found that doing some contemporary playwrights who have recently passed, like Edward Albee, is even to some degree been there, done that with a lot of audiences. A lot of audiences feel like they've seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf enough times. They don't need to see it again. So our interest is in working with playwrights and living playwrights because we feel playwrights are sort of one of the real chroniclers of our contemporary time, and that the playwrights are the ones who are taking the issues that we're wrestling with as a society and are creating work out of them. At Marin Theatre Company, we know, as I mentioned when I was telling you about the season, we know that our audiences like subjects that they know about. So we tend to do a lot of new work that is actually based in the past. For instance, Sovereignty, the Mother of the Maid, Botticelli and the Fire. All 3 of those plays are about artists, people who lived in other time periods, stories that come from another era, 1830. And then giving a contemporary spin to the tale. And we find our audiences like that very much. We did Equivocation a few years ago, 9 years ago now, wow. 9 years ago, and that was a look at how Shakespeare wrote the Scottish play. And audiences loved seeing how that play came into being through that playwright's imagination. So we tend to focus exclusively on new writers. We don't even we're not even really trying to do a balance anymore. We're trying to find a balance in what we present, not necessarily in classic work versus contemporary work. It's all contemporary work. It's all new work. And we just try to find a balance of subject matter over the course of a year, which is sort of when I describe those 6 plays to you, they're all over the board in terms of genre. But they're all living writers, and 5 of the 6 of them will actually be in residence with us working on the plays, which is very exciting.
Very good. Linda, different question. Todd has a band. Jasson has a troupe of actors. You've got this unique situation where you're trying to coordinate a host of different independent ensembles and put them together into a program at one center. What challenges does that present, and how do you deal with it?
Well, there are very similar challenges. So I really prefer to bring people that are doing original music. So many times, we also do very, very eclectic, multicultural music. So I love it. I feel like we need a lot of culture in Marin. It breaks down walls. It helps people know more about people through the art that they do. But again, the thing that sells tickets are name recognition and things that people find familiarity in. So I thought Todd brought in a great point, which was underwriting and support. So in the past, the arts, really, it was much easier for the arts to get underwriting and support and grants. And so we really do have to rely on ticket sales much more than we've ever had to. It used to be a much different balance. So we're torn between bringing in things that are eclectic, cutting edge, new, original art, or bringing in things that people will come and flock to because they've seen it before, or there is some familiarity. I would love for everybody to go, wow, Linda booked that, it's gonna be great, and we're gonna buy a ticket. But it just isn't that easy. So it's just as challenging for us. And yes, I could book cover bands, or I could book things that people have seen over and over again, but I don't really think that that's our work here. I think our work is to bring things that represent what's happening in the world today, that represents things that get people out of their shell and help them connect with each other. I think the arts has been a great way for people to find solace in the troubles that they're going through, whether they work something out by watching somebody, what they went through on stage, live, or shutting off things going through their head to listen to a symphony and just give in to that day. So I think that we have our challenges that are very similar, but a little different.
So are there programs you've wanted to book or groups that you've wanted to bring in that you haven't succeeded in, and why?
It's interesting because we have a couple challenges at the Jewish Community Center. First of all, I don't know if you know, but you don't have to be Jewish to go there, and we don't just do Jewish programming. So that's a big challenge for us, even though we have a theater that brings in many different cultures, and actually the programming I do is probably very little of it is related to Judaism. It's basically working with the lifestyle that the arts are really, really important to you, and that's something that the Jews hold very, very dearly to them. So it's a very important part of everyday life. So yeah, it's been hard. I bring in some great stuff that I know sell out other places, but don't sell out in Marin. I bring in things that I'll have 100 people come to that just come up to me afterwards and go, that is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. Where did you find that? Where did you? But if the word doesn't get out, we just don't have a way of spreading that and building it. And we're very, very locked in with how we spread the word on things these days.
Well, that's part of what we're doing here today.
Love it.
Todd, what about you? Tell us about how you select and attract guest artists, soloists, and things of that sort.
Well, guest artists and soloists are actually a very small amount of what we do. We put on 4 masterworks classical concerts a year, and 2 or 3 of those will have a guest artist, and it's usually repertoire driven. So the challenge of putting a season together is maybe a little more interesting, because we want to create programs that are cohesive, each one in its own right. So put music together on a program that makes sense being together for whatever reasons that is, and that can be a little bit hard to nail down why 2 pieces or 3 pieces fit together or don't. This is something that our maestro, our music director, Alistair Neal, has a great amount of experience with. I'm in that conversation, but it's more part of his job than mine. We also feel like we need to cover a lot of ground in a season. So we are an organization that presents a classical art, and as we all know, there are these monumental names that are associated with that art, and we can't let a season or certainly 2 seasons go by without playing Brahms or without playing Beethoven or Mozart or Tchaikovsky. I mean, those are our bread and butter, and those are what people who come to the symphony need and want to hear. So we want to cover those bases in as interesting a way as possible. We also want to make sure that we are presenting high quality, engaging contemporary music in a way that that feels right to us. And then classical music over the centuries, and especially now, covers so much stylistic ground that we want to make sure that we're not playing programs that are all the same. So a lot of different elements that go into creating a season or even creating an individual program.
So I'm sort of curious about this. Let's say you decide, all right, we want to do the Dvorak Cello Concerto. First of all, how do you decide you want to do that? Do you decide because you've got a particular artist that has that in the repertoire that you want to program, and so we're going to call her and she's going to play this? Or is it the other way around where you say, I want that piece in a concert, who's the best person to play it, and how do I find them?
Sure. Sometimes it's the one and sometimes it's the other. I don't think you could say one or the other necessarily. For example, our piano soloist next March, Orly Shaham, somebody that we knew we wanted to have at the Marin Symphony, someone that Alistair has worked with previously. She's known to a lot of our audience, and we had a particular concerto in mind for Orly to perform, and it ended up being a negotiation with her and her management about what piece she would play, and we shifted gears and ended up playing something that was in her current repertoire and built a program around that.
Okay, let's do fantasy time here. Let's have each of you tell us what would be a dream program, presentation, work that you would love to present. Todd, why don't you start? I'm sorry. Jason, why don't you start? I still switched your jobs.
You know, for the most part, we've been lucky enough that we pretty much do our dream season every year. We have been, again, when we were trying to figure out how to do a balance of Tennessee Williams and you know, the range of things, we were really being told by people, don't need to see this anymore. And so we now, for the most part, do the type of work that we feel really inspired to do as an organization, and we find that tends to motivate our donors the most. And when we're doing work that is challenging and really matters on the contemporary landscape, it gets very tricky when we start trying to not do that. It's very hard when you're not super passionate about what you're doing to really sell that to people who want to see what the next wave of writing is going to be. So for us, we're very lucky that for the most part, we're doing what we want at this point. So
Lucky man. Linda, a dream work.
Well, we do our dream work during the summer, and I'd like to see that kind of come into our winter season as well. And during the summer, we have an outdoor area that's actually a school ground during the winter year. And so we do music that actually has several elements to it. It has food, it has some kind of movement, whether it's a pre-event dance class or even I've done yoga stretching before the class. And it has music. It has an area for children to be there, so people can just put aside the babysitter and expose their children also to music. I've tried to move that indoors during the winter. It's kind of hard, I think, basically because of people's schedules. But I think we've hit everything we want to hit on those nights. So it's the arts, it's people moving, it's the kids are doing a hands-on arts project, and people are talking and eating with each other too. So it's infiltrating the arts into people, into their normal lives, and teaching them that the arts are there every day for them, and at a low cost. So it's something that it's very casual. We do have wonderful things that you should sit quietly and listen to, but I also really like bringing that aspect to the indoors. I'd like to do that. Typically our summer season is, we also present New Century Chamber Orchestra, which is great. We do our interviews on stage that are quiet, but I'd like to see more of this interactive stuff happening all year round through the center.
Todd.
Well, I don't know if I have a dream program that we haven't been able to do. I feel pretty dreamy about most of the programs that we do. Great about all of them, in fact. I think maybe my dream is related, which is that I wish we didn't have practical realities that sometimes get in the way of doing particular things. I'll just give one example, which maybe isn't the best example, but we do a family concert in the spring. I didn't even mention that one. We do a family concert, and then the day after our Sunday family concert, we have something called Symphony Day, in which we invite the entire 4th grade of Marin County to come to hear a shorter version of that concert in the big concert hall, free of charge. It's kind of our gift to the students of Marin. But our family concert is one where there are financial restrictions on what we can do. We have enough, we can afford to pay for, essentially for one rehearsal for the orchestra. It'd be amazing to most people who aren't in our business what an accomplished performance a symphony like the Marin Symphony can create with a single 2.5-hour rehearsal. However, there's a piece that I've been wanting to do for our family concert for several years. Alistair would like to do it too. It's this wonderful orchestral demonstration, kind of dramatic piece called The Composer is Dead, written by a living composer, and it's sort of a mystery played out in public.
Got a theme going here today.
Yes, a lot of ironies there. But Alistair said, we'd love to do it. It would take 3 rehearsals. So just a simple financial decision. Not going to be doing that unless we could find somebody to come up with an extra $30,000 or $40,000, because one rehearsal with the full orchestra is, you know, about a $15,000 price tag. So I guess my wish is that we could not have to worry about those things.
In a perfect world. Let's talk about developing the audience. How do you develop and expand your audience? For example, how important to your long-term plan is finding new demographics for the people who come to your events? And more specifically, how do the fine arts engage younger people, you know, kids under 60, say?
We call, in our internal discussions, young people are people under 60, so it seems funny to us too, but yeah. Well, maybe I'll start briefly. It's a huge priority for us to find people that would love what we do and don't know it yet. It's also a huge priority for us to present work that people who have already decided that classical music isn't for them will enjoy. So hence our expansion of POPs programming, hence our work to bring music out into the community away from the concert hall.
Linda?
I think you're going to get basically the same answer from all of us. In fact, we were talking about this in the other room before we came out, and it is about increasing our audience and really attracting a younger audience. So
how do you do it?
It's all up there on the top of our list. So one of the things we've been doing is as I said, we're doing things that have more interactive things and that are allowing people to bring their children. We found a lot of the people that are living in Marin that are young adults with children, they don't have the time or the resources really to get the sitter and do all this, and so we're making it very easy for them to bring the kids, and we're hoping not only to build them into our audiences on a regular basis, but we're also exposing the kids and thinking of generations to come that will be exposed to live arts that aren't really dumbed down for the kids or really brought down to a children's level, but them seeing great art as it is as adults view it too, and learning to appreciate those as a family together as well.
So Jasson, is it an issue in theater?
It's massive. It's a huge issue. One of the reasons we are actually doing the type of work that we are doing is to actually cultivate a younger audience. We this year have, having 5 women as our playwrights, and then of the 5, half of them are women of color. That is a big demographic shift for us in terms of attempting to bring in different audiences, audiences from different parts of the Bay Area, and then even more diverse audiences from within Marin. It is an absolute priority if the art form is going to continue to be relevant. I think all the arts are struggling with that. Again, it's struggling to break through the noise of contemporary society. There is so much that it's very easy to sit back on your heels. There is, when you've got hundreds and hundreds of television channels connected to your box, I mean, you can find anything that you want, and often you spend an awful lot of time just flipping through things you have no interest in seeing, which boggles my mind. But we've got all these magazines and books digitally at our fingertips now, so it's tricky, and we're trying to battle through and find that sweet spot where people feel engaged and they feel like they need to come in and have a civic dialogue, because that's one of the biggest things that the arts do for us, is that they do bring us into a room together to have a conversation about things, whether they're old things or new things, or how old things are affecting us now, or how would old things be received now. It's an art form that we're losing. It's a type of gathering that we're losing. You can see in our public discourse, people don't know how to talk to each other anymore. There is no civility. There is no moral center in a lot of ways. And I think that's something that the arts are constantly talking about, trying to get us in a room to talk about where is our moral center, where is, what are our values, and what do we agree on, what do we not agree on, what can we disagree on, how can we talk about these things. In general, everything's breaking down in terms of that sort of discourse. Even newspapers, are getting so polarized that it's really tricky not to just get a polarized view of things, which I think the arts are always trying to bring balancing viewpoints into the room and trying to have a discussion. So trying to find younger people that are interested in the discussion and not just turned off to discourse, because discourse isn't discourse in the public sphere much anymore. I think that's a trick.
The marketplace of ideas has become, I don't know what, fill in the blank. Okay, let's leave some time for questions from the audience, but I have a couple more that I want to get off of my list here. So, lightning round. If I were a genie who appeared out of a magic lantern and I could grant each of you 3 wishes, what would they be? Real quick. Jasson. For your organization, that is.
Well, the one thing every arts organization wants is the ability to not have to worry about how you're going to pay the artists that you're supporting. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Same.
Detecting a theme here. Todd?
Well, that's my theme as well, and I think it's occurred to me for a long time, and maybe to my colleagues here and all of you. We live in such an incredibly wealthy country, and in one of the wealthiest parts of that country. And honestly, I've never understood why it is so difficult for organizations like ours to do what we do. A nonprofit organization in general, I've come to think of as 2 businesses, really. One is the business of your mission, and in ours it's presenting this wonderful music in as high quality a way as we can, and the other is your fundraising business. And so much time and effort goes into that. Anyway, it's been a mystery to me, or a puzzlement, why 1 or 2 of those astoundingly wealthy people that live among us wouldn't want to just take care of this, bestow the arts upon us. And that's I'll take all 3 of my wishes right in that one.
There you go.
I'll throw you my 3 as well.
All right, my last question, then I'm going to turn it over to you folks. Aside from showing up at buying tickets and maybe making a donation from time to time, what can we as members of the community do to help support the arts in Marin? Start with Todd.
Tell your friends. You know, when you have a great experience at one of our organizations or anywhere else, spread the word. You know, word of mouth is really our best marketing tool, both for individual things we do and on an ongoing basis. So tell your friends, bring your friends, spread the word.
Right, and I was going to take it to the next one. Don't just tell them, bring them. Bring them out. And a lot of people just aren't, they're just not used to getting out and doing things these days. They really are stuck in this rut of being in their house and doing their day-to-day thing. And what a wonderful way to break that up is to go and experience something like the arts. So Todd's exactly right. Word of mouth is the best thing we can do. We have to cast such a broad net to get to anybody, but the best thing, as I said, those people that come up to me at the end of a show and say, that was unbelievable, just tell people. Just tell people, bring them out, get them to liven up their lives a little bit, get them to set the things, the debris that is just in the world these days, set it aside for a minute so you can put yourself in this one place and then start getting your thinking on the right path again. I think we all need that a little bit.
Absolutely, helping to spread the word, using, you know, getting your network to go see things that you think are worth seeing. You know, that is the most important thing that we can have right now in terms of helping to spread the word about the arts, and specifically the things that are being done here in Marin.
So my wife must be channeling your thinking, because she's given up birthday gifts that come in a box, and now I get experiences. So I get a ticket to a concert, or obviously 2 tickets, or something of those along those lines. And I think it's great, because I don't need anything else, right? What do I need? If I need it, I'll buy it. So it's terrific that she thinks to create experiences for us. It gets us out, just like you're saying, and it's something that I probably wouldn't have bought myself, because all I buy are tickets to Brahms, right? So she buys us something I wouldn't have thought of, and it gets me out. It's terrific. So, all right, let me stop talking, and let's hear from you folks. Who has a question?
I just returned from Australia on Friday, and I had 10 days up in northern Queensland at a town called Townsville, population about 100,000. For several decades, they've had the Townsville Chamber Music Festival that goes on for 9 or 10 days, that attracts artists from all over Australia, quite a few from overseas, and is hugely well attended by locals as well. And I think what it does, it serves to stimulate interest in the arts so that that small town can support plays and concerts off and on all year round. By the way, I attended Othello, an outdoor performance of Othello 10 days ago. It was packed out, and I would guess half the audience were less than 25 years old. So I'm just a little worried when you say you only do live playwrights these days and not dead ones. So there's always young people coming along who need that experience, you know.
Great. Any reactions?
Well, it's interesting to hear what happens in other countries and what a different world it is out there for the arts. You know, for orchestras, just to take my field, many countries of the world, Australia is one, most of the countries of Europe are others, Asian, these orchestras are considered so important to the lives of the citizens that they are supported in large part, in some cases entirely, by the taxes that people pay and by government support. As we all know, some of those economies are suffering right now, and it's beginning to change a little bit. That support for the arts is under a lot of pressure in countries like Spain and Germany and France. I know, just because I know people that are there. But that respect for the value that's being created and the community engagement and connections that are being created is something that I think we could all learn from.
Other comments?
Well, I actually handed it to Todd and said, do you want to talk about the United States? Because the arts are so well respected in other countries. And I know musicians that actually travel to Europe in the summer to make enough money to live all year round. And they play small venues, and people go out and they show respect for the arts. And somehow we kind of lost our way here. And I'm not really sure how I could start on that, but a big one, but I think all of us would know when you go and you see street musicians and you see people everywhere in other countries, and they're respected. And there seems to be a lot of things here that seem to be going to the wayside.
Looking for hands for other questions? Okay.
I'm Keith Wedmore from Mill Valley. I can't return the compliment because you have, with extreme modesty, hidden your name. But I assume... Thank you. Pause for a moment. Okay. I assume that you are the Marin Theatre in Mill Valley. And my question would be, how come that you advertise the plays in advance and you have extremely comfortable seats? So far, so good. But you don't say who are the actors who will be doing the play that you're announcing. You don't say it's got Dame Judith Tench and Sir Alec Guinness, Sir Michael Redgrave. They remain anonymous. Is it that you are trying to avoid them getting any kind of reputation, or do you think that they deservedly have none, or what is going on?
I will say that in most of our publicity materials, the actors are named. We go to great lengths to name the actors when they're regular Bay Area actors that people know. We don't bring in a lot of TV stars or movie stars to do work at our theater. As a matter of fact, I can't think of anybody that is an actual TV star or movie star that's been at the theater since I've been there. I tend to think those actors are poor, but they don't do very well on stage, but that's just my bias. But we have a lot of Bay Area actors that we always put front and center in terms of the fact that they're in the shows. So I don't know why you're missing it, but I'll take that back to my marketing director and we'll talk about that and see if we can rectify that for you.
Hi, my name is Kay Thorgelson, and I live 5 minutes from here. And I lived in the city for about 35 years, and Marin has so much art here, and it's so easy to park. The prices are much more reasonable. And but I don't seem to be getting out much this year. When I first moved to Marin, I was a member of the symphony. I went to theater companies, years in other theater companies, and I belong to the Jewish Community Center. And so part of it is I think I'm getting older and I don't like to go out and start at 8 p.m. at night. And I'm healthy, I can drive, and I don't have any problems with that. But, and I know that you probably all have matinees. So Jasson, my question to you is, I went to a couple of your plays last year, and they were really good. The actors were fantastic. My sister from San Francisco came over here, and we went to some. And I looked online, or they sent me what you were doing this year, and I read about them, and I thought, well, I don't like all of these. They're dramas. And, when I'm sitting in a drama, I tend to really appreciate it. They're really well written. But it just seems like the blurbs that they put out when I'm reading what the plays are about, it's like, well, I'm not interested in those.
The microphone nearer your mouth.
Oh, okay, thank you. But the way you describe them, I'm interested in all of them, so I would buy season tickets, So I don't know what it is, but you describe them so much more interesting than how they describe them if you're looking in the newspaper, and I do take the Marin IJ, or if you're looking online. And so anyways, and I think for me, I think I better start buying season tickets because that will get me out. When I had season tickets to the symphony, I got out to the symphony, and my problem is I don't have anybody to go with, so it would be nice to hook up with a group that likes to talk about, what they're going to see and talk about it afterwards. So I don't know if you have anybody like that.
Well, we do Q&As after every performance except Saturdays and opening night and closing night. So there's always a group of people sitting around talking about the play after it happens. And we have a number of different play groups, people that come to see shows and come with people that are like-minded. So if you're interested, you're welcome to get in touch with our marketing department, and we can hook you up with some of those groups as well. So that's a great idea. Actually, it's something maybe we'll start thinking about making more of is, you know, do you want a group of people like you, and do you want to come on a night where we've got a group of people coming that you could be a part of? So it's a great idea. Actually, something I've never thought about doing. Yeah?
We have a question over here.
So I'm a musician, and I have this sort of lifelong dream of living in a place where the arts are just all around. You go downtown, in the plaza, there's, you know, a string quartet playing or whatever. I kind of got the idea probably when I went to Aspen in the 80s as a music student, and I saw this sort of thing going on. A place downtown that's full of, you know, civic art, beautiful stuff. Where maybe is a little play being put on, maybe, you know, this sort of thing, just as a matter of sort of routine life. Now, I know, like, what I'm talking about takes a lot of money and, you know, difficulties with the local government and, you know, whatnot, controlling the situation. But it seems to me like if it were possible to create such a place, first of all, it would attract a lot of people who love that sort of thing. And could create a sort of a virtuous cycle of interest and education and artistic experience and funding and, you know, just a center, a vortex for that sort of thing. Plus, it would be an incredibly delightful place to be. So I wonder if any of you separately have considered, you know, how that might benefit your own organizations and ways that you might be able to contribute to an effort like that. You know, for example, if the symphony could put together, you know, you're interested in presenting more contemporary music, so you could have like a contemporary chamber ensemble drawn from the orchestra that could go to places where people are and give a performance that's not necessarily a thing that people would pay admission to go and sit down and listen to the whole concert, but it would be something that they would experience as they pass by. And part of the reason, one of the things that sort of gave me this idea is I went to Whole Foods a couple of years ago, and Thanksgiving was coming up, and there was this dastardly person behind a nice little display handing out plates of turkey and dressing. I wasn't going to try the turkey and dressing, but there it was. It was free. They were handing it to me, so I tried it, and it was really good. This could be a way, this concept could be a way to expose people to contemporary music. Just if it's just there, you go downtown, you're in the plaza, somebody's playing some delightful piece of contemporary music, and whoever might be inclined to like that sort of thing, who's passing by would go, wow, that's really cool. What is that?
A couple thoughts that your words have given me. One of the interesting things that came into the mix a lot when I was part of this steering committee for the strategic plan for arts and culture in the county was the challenges that are created by the nature of our county, because it's not like San Francisco where city and county are the same thing. Here in Marin we have, I can't remember if it's 13 municipalities, there's cities, there's towns, there's unincorporated area. There's not so much of a central organizing principle. The county government is that, such as it exists. It's not a strong entity as it is in some other places that are less disparate. And so to have that central gathering place like downtown in Marin, I don't know what that would be. Maybe downtown San Rafael, our biggest city, which I think has somewhere around 50,000 people in it. You know, less than 20% of the population of the county. The idea of getting music out where people are and giving them a chance to encounter something delightful and take that where it might go is something that's close to our hearts too. I think sometimes it comes down to resources and capacity to do a thing like that, but I love the idea.
Any other thoughts?
I love the idea too, and we're always looking or hoping to find places outside of the center that we can produce things as well, but it's not very easy. And again, it needs to be, I think, a part of maybe the main plan of Marin County, and with support from the county as well for something like that, because I think every one of us would do it in a heartbeat, because we're not in this for the money. We are totally in this because we're very passionate about what we do, and we're passionate about the arts. So any opportunity to be able to spread the arts throughout the community is just, we're very excited about.
I think that's been plenty.
I have a son who worked in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center for 5 years and played in 2 orchestras as a first violinist. And he's up in Eugene now after managing the symphony, and he's got his MBA. And he had a question for you, and I wanted to give it to you. How can you integrate the arts and bring them into business, educational facilities, government, all the institute of areas like that?
That's a similar question to what we've just been talking about, how to have the arts be more of the fabric of our society. We work very hard in some of those arenas, bringing arts into schools, for example. I mean, bringing music to the schools, helping schools do the music that they do better. That's a big part of our mission and a big part of our activity. Bringing music into other communities or places where it's not usually found. We actually have, you talked about bringing music to government, which we have actually, we have had a couple times now the opportunity to have performances in the chamber of the Board of Supervisors of Marin County, and we had an ulterior motive for doing that, but there we were bringing music to government. I know there are significant programs bringing not only music but other performing arts into San Quentin. We've had 4 performances in San Quentin in the last year and a half, and we'll be doing more there. So, you know, that idea of integrating music and performing arts into as many of the aspects of our society and culture as we can, it's something we want to do. How to do it, I mean, I hate to be the one that keeps bringing it back to that resource question, but it is central. We developed this, really it's an amazing arts and culture strategic plan. Highly recommend you all read it because it's a wonderful expression of aspiration. And then the big question, okay, great, this is such a great plan. How are we going to pay for all this? Where does the money come from? And you know, we wrestled with that question a lot as a committee. We got a lot of interesting discussion and guidance and ideas, but you know, that is the open question, is finding resources, especially when you're working with organizations that can provide the structure to do that.
The other thing is it's difficult to go into some place like that. What we do, we give away a lot of outreach tickets for each of our summer nights performances where we have a lot of space. We give over 100 tickets away for each one of the events. And so we do that through other nonprofits that are working with people of low income or people that have difficulties getting out of the house and whatnot. So we try to do it in that way. I would love to be able to do it in other ways, but we don't have the resources for that. We don't have the resources to take the artists out. So what we do is we have a lot of partnerships with Parno House, which is a senior housing next door, low-income senior housing, and with Venetia Valley School directly across the street, where we have them come over for most of our events for free with their families as well. So we're doing what we can in the opposite way, bringing them there. But another thing that I think, Todd, you kind of alluded to is the way that Marin is set up. It is developed so that it's small hamlets, and transportation is really hard for some people, and so that is something that we need to work on as well, I think, is having a way that people can get to performances, especially at night. There's very little transportation to get people anywhere near our facilities to see performances.
Yeah, and so many of the types of things that you're talking about going into places is very high expense for us because of the costs of actually having artists to do those things. And in a lot of instances, they're very low yield. in terms of the number of people that we can get those artists in front of. So we try to maximize when we take artists out in the community in terms of what it's costing us to do that and then what the yield may be. So a lot of times we really depend on volunteer hours for people to do that sort of thing. And with artists, especially the minute you get an artist that's working with a union who's at the top of their field, there is no thing like that. It becomes very, very difficult to get any sort of that sort of free exposure. So it's tough.
Good afternoon. Encourage the children to come to performances. I've been playing in Marin County in various orchestras off and on since 1965. About that time, the Marin Youth Orchestra was flourishing under Hugo Rinaldi. You couldn't get into that orchestra. Many of the players went off to the San Francisco Symphony, first trombone of the New York Philharmonic. It was incredible back then. And it really slumped off for many years. And I'm noticing that it's really coming back. The youth in the county, the Elm Foundation, Enriching Lives Through Music out on Kerner, which is free music lessons aimed at Canal District, and they've got over 200 people participating in that. The College of Marin bands and orchestras encourage high school students to come and play with them. They get to go for free. They don't have to pay tuition. They also get college units for doing that, which looks really good on a college application. But, you know, we all are speaking the same language here. Bring your grandchildren, bring your nieces, your nephews, the young ones, because if they don't get into it, it's going to be gone. We're preaching to the choir here.
Reactions? Pretty much speaks for itself, I think.
Sure does.
Yeah. Well, we're all very fortunate to have what you present to us. Even better is what you present to us has been of quality. And I personally am most grateful for the fact that our symphony has been remarkably, consistently good throughout the years. Thank you all for that. My question is actually directed to our chairperson. Why don't we have Marin Shakespeare Company here? Well, I would like to see the Shakespeare Company continue. My only regret with them is that they try to modernize the plays. And as for the comment you made from Australia, I'm curious as to why the children saw Othello, aside from the fact that must have been they heard that the most vicious, vile character in Shakespeare is Iago.
I wanted to see the
But in response to the very good question about why isn't the Shakespeare Company here, why isn't, you know, the film festival here, other organizations, you know, we've reached out to a number of people, and we can't have an endless panel. So it seemed to us having three presenters from three of the key organizations of the arts in Marin was a good idea, and not spread it too thin. We did an arts program here at the Marin Coalition about 3-4 years ago, and I don't remember, maybe someone here was there, and you recall who the representatives were on that occasion. They were different organizations, I think, and it was the same. Do you remember who it was, Frida?
Well, Marin Shakespeare was contacted, but they didn't come.
Oh, for this time, you mean?
No,
Oh,
not this time, but
last time.
years ago.
Okay. Do you remember who we had on that occasion?
Not specific
Yeah.
names, but the organizations were the same, except we didn't have Kanbar
Okay.
at the time. And we had artists from representing the fine arts.
Okay. So we've done the program before. I know Marin Coalition tends to be, you know, policy related and driven by issues that affect the pocketbook and voting and things of that sort, environment, infrastructure. It seemed to us it was a good idea to branch out and do something more culturally related. And so we put this program together, and I'm very thankful that we got these presenters to join us and to give us such excellent information today. I'm hoping that we can do this kind of program again. We did a survey, many of you might have seen, in the last year or so, and we tried to poll our mailing list and our members as far as what topics you want to see, what programs you are interested in or have gone to that you liked. And for whatever reason, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the arts in Marin didn't particularly score high. And so it's a little bit of a gamble for us to, frankly, present this topic. And I wanted to do it anyway. I think it's important. And I thought, okay, I'm sure some of our audience, some of our members will want to hear this program and will come, and obviously you are. But we certainly would like to continue this dialogue. I would anyway. And you know, if this is the kind of programming that you think is of value, tell us. You know, you got these comment cards. We'd love to hear your reactions to them. So thanks for the feedback on that. And we do our best to do the programming that we are able to do and get the participation that we're able to. Not everyone always has, you know, a free couple of hours in the middle of a Wednesday, but we're really thankful that our speakers did here. We're probably out of time, but if there's a last question or two, I'm happy to entertain it. Go ahead, Doris.
It occurred to me, the most exciting thing about your presentation was the upcoming seasons. I loved hearing about that. And perhaps you do this already, but for a marketing tool, maybe all of you, including other art, Marin art thing, could do a coming season promotion together, and maybe you do that, but like coming 2020 seasons of arts in Marin, a tabloid, and even I envision maybe in North Bay, arts in North Bay, where you could present something so people have, you know, see what's in the future, see what's coming all in one periodical or tabloid or mailing or even a television presentation.
You know, that's a great idea, and we could maybe talk to marinarts.org.
Marin Arts does something like that.
And ask them to do something in one of their emails. I think these days email is one of the great ways that you can get information. I know that I think between the three of us we do email trades where we'll trade information so that if I have something coming up, Marin Theatre Company will add it to also being done, because the arts, I mean, we all play in the same sandbox.
So the people could say, look, for the coming season, I want to do this.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think it's a great idea. I think there are some efforts to do that, but it hasn't really been done comprehensively, and I would like to see that document that you just described.
Marketing person, somebody that could help you out.
Yeah, I mean, we all work tremendously hard on our own programming and on marketing and getting the word out, and it's always great when you can find a way to help one another, and we do that. But to do something comprehensive would be amazing.
Okay, Doris, get working on that. Last question. Here we go, Karen.
You say you need money. But I'm thinking of the people moving into Marin, where the property values are rising, and the people moving in are from a higher and higher income. So those are the people you should be marketing to, maybe, instead of in addition to the children. Where do these people meet? I mean, I'm obviously not one of them, but what do they, how can you get at them? Special, put a background music on at one of their golf events or something.
Well, generally it's not, you have money, we need money, here we are. That's kind of not the way that those things tend to work successfully. You know, it's more, we have wonderful music that will feed your soul and delight and engage you. And once we've gotten that introduction made, then those other conversations become possible. So yes, there is tremendous wealth here. And yes, we all of our organizations work tremendously hard to connect with people that can help us. But it really starts with what's the work that we're doing that would inspire those people to want to help us. Well, all of the above.
I can help you with that. All right, everyone. Thanks to Todd, Jason, Linda. Let's put our hands together for our panel.
Thank you.
Great discussion, and don't forget there's literature out there on the way out of the door, and hope to see many of you next month for the wildfires presentation. Thank you very much.